I recently reviewed the Lenovo ThinkPad P14s Gen 5 AMD, a fast, lightweight workstation with a beautiful 120Hz OLED screen and capable Radeon integrated graphics. It's enough to usurp my previous favorite 14-inch laptop, the 2022 Asus Zephyrus G14, thanks to its comparable system performance, superior creature comforts, and professional styling. The only thing holding it back from being the perfect 14-inch laptop is a bigger battery and dedicated GPU. But now, actually, I've got my hands on something along those lines. The same thing.
Slap Tech.
This then is the Lenovo ThinkPad P14s Gen 5 with Intel and Nvidia guts. Yes, I really do have both models in my possession, but this is going to be a straight-up review while I try me damnedest to quell the desire for any direct comparison whatsoever. That video is coming later. As configured, this laptop goes for about $1,500 under normal circumstances. That buys you a P14s with the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H, a 16-core 22-thread CPU with 24 megs of cache that clocks the 6 P-cores up to 4.8 GHz. It's mated to the Nvidia RTX 500 GPU with 4 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM, not to be confused with the RTX A500 from the previous generation, which is much less powerful. 32 gigs of RAM should be plenty for the vast majority of users, which also comes in the form of 2 upgradable sticks that can be removed, kissed, and then put back in. 1 terabyte is what the full-sized NVMe drive can hold, and these bits sit underneath a very nice 14.5-inch 3K display with 100% DCI-P3 coverage and refreshes at 120 Hz. Keeping it mobile is a sizable 75 watt-hour battery, and it weighs a reasonably decent 3.5 pounds. The AC adapter that comes with it is a 135-watt USB-C brick. The edges have a lip for tie-down compatibility, and the from-the-wall cord has a 3-prong connector. Out of the box, it'll stretch a maximum of 9 feet away from a wall juice dispenser, upgradable to 12 with a longer from-the-wall cord. Using a more compact 65-watt charger is possible, but it will cause a pop-up warning to appear, and a nasty taskbar icon will forever encourage the use of the appropriately sized adapter. The battery life of this 14-inch ThinkPad is something exciting to test. The Intel model is the only one with a newly available 75 watt-hour unit, and Intel's Core Ultra series has been known to delicately sip the wall juice. This P14s doesn't disappoint, but predictably it also doesn't impress. Internet work use typically lasts for 8 hours and 45 minutes if using Chrome to do some multi-tabbed research with Office running on the side. This value can be extended past 9 hours with minimal internet use. Streaming videos will play for 6 hours and 45 minutes. That's enough for a season of the original Star Trek if you skip the overt post-World War II influenced dialogue, which leaves the phasers and William Shatner stunt doubles action sequences. 2D retro gaming lasts for an incredible 6 hours and 40 minutes if the dedicated GPU is told to take a nap, but Citra doesn't like the integrated ARC GPU all that much, so the RTX will have to be employed for an awesome gaming experience that will last for only 2 hours on battery power. PC gaming drains the battery even faster at 1 hour and 15 minutes, which, granted, is still 30 minutes faster than the average gaming laptop. Overall, there's a lot of promise here. Sure, it doesn't match wits with Intel-based thin and light laptops, which last for hours more, but it strikes a good middle ground between battery-hogging gaming notebooks and Power Miser Evo-certified Apple munchers. Please note that these figures are all about DAT 60Hz mode. I didn't bother to measure battery life in 120Hz, but now that I'm done with it, this puppy is going to be set to 120Hz at all times without a care in the world. The case of this ThinkPad P14s has been extended by a fraction of an inch on all sides this year and is built out of a couple different materials. The display housing and bottom cover are forged from recycled aluminum, and the main body surrounding the keyboard is recycled plastic. It's very durable with a little bit of flex around the keyboard and minimal give around the display. Cleaning these surfaces takes some elbow grease, but the efforts aren't in vain, as finger oil can be completely removed with a gentle microfiber cloth. The updated hinge apparatus evokes ThinkPad P1 vibes, ditching the dual-arm approach from previous generations. Since the whole body is a deep black, finger oil will show up after brief interaction and blends in extra ugly with the iridescent finish of the keyboard keys. Overall, it's still very classy and cleans up easily, but I wish it had the magnesium alloy body from the 3rd generation and a matte keyboard polish. The glittery sheen opposite the display is something I'd expect from budget laptops like the IdeaPad line, but gone are the borders around the ThinkPad insignias. Now, they're clean individual letters carved into the casing, making logos from previous generations obsolete. Let's see what all those holes in the side do. On the right is a USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, gigabit LAN, and a lock slot. The left grants us HDMI 2.1, 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports that can take power and output DisplayPort 2.1, USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 for a total of 2 standard USBs, and headset in. Having a USB-A port on both sides of the laptop is always a smart idea, and 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports is luxurious. A smart card reader is optional but not present on this unit, and what's missing are both a SIM card slot and SD card reader. Does the ThinkPad designer not have a puppy or something? I will buy them a litter of puppies if it means the P14s gets a card reader. It's time to take a peek inside this ThinkPad. 6 Phillips head screws hold the bottom cover on, and the first thing to notice is how robust the cooling solution is. 2 fans blow into a lot of heat pipe and something that resembles a vapor chamber, but isn't. Underneath all that copper are 2 glorious RAM slots and a full-length NVMe drive. There's a slot for a 5G WAN card opposite the storage drive, the Wi-Fi card is inaccessible, and the 75 watt-hour battery takes up the whole bottom of the laptop. The speakers are mounted on the very bottom, fired downward, and are a fair distance apart, a natural evolution from the 3rd gen speaker placement that pitted them very close together. On top of all that sits a keyboard. ThinkPads are kinda known to have great input devices, and this one keeps the rep going strong. The keys are firm to press and respond with a confident treble click. The tone isn't muffled and the action isn't soft like the 3rd generation, where it felt like some of the feedback and noise sank into the chassis, barely felt or heard. As such, it feels noticeably different, but not jarringly so. New for this generation are function and control keys that are in their rightful places according to every sane keyboard designer on God's green earth, but if you're uncomfortable leaving productivity hell, the key functions can be swapped. Otherwise, all other staples are here and accounted for, like home and insert, delete, and page scrolling keys. I'm still getting used to the placement of the page scrolling keys and keep accidentally leaping up the document instead of moving the cursor 3 spaces to the left. If I could disable those little bastards completely, I would. And the backlight remains the same, with 2 stops is classy as hell, but I'll always leave mine on the brighter setting as the first stop is a little weak sauce. Underneath the keyboard is a touchpad. It goes completely unchanged even as everything else has been edited to some degree. It still has a smooth surface with a muted firm click that feels like it was built to withstand a million presses. Gestures are easy to pull off, the acceleration is predictable, and it comes with its own set of physical keys on top. And rightfully so, on a $1,000 or more device, am I right? The venerable, if not controversial, ThinkPad nipple mouse remains functionally unchanged for the most part. It still likes to drift after constant use, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, and I had to lower the sensitivity in order to make it usable. New for this generation, it has a nifty double-tap menu for 4 swappable quick access features. Ooh. I can successfully activate it 50% of the time and use it solely for the cleaning feature, where it shuts off all input devices on a 1 or 2 minute timer. The other functions are so infrequently called for that it's a wonder why this gimmick leads to anything else. Give it a touchpad toggle, then we'll talk. Sitting on top of all this stuff is a 3K 120Hz IPS screen. I would have killed to have this on the 3rd generation P14s. So glad I don't have to do that anymore, mostly. It's kind of a power hog, but also has a 60Hz mode. This 8-bit display is 100% DCI P3 color accurate with a solid matte finish that reflects as little light as possible. The contrast ratio isn't exactly insane, so deep blacks and bright whites are cut off at the tippity top of the spectrum, but gradients are ultra smooth, and it gets plenty dim for a pitch black room and bright enough for outdoor use on a cloudy day. Colors never distort at any angle, while the brightness dips at a close angle, but with 180-degree tilt, there's no such thing as an awkward viewing moment. Being an IPS panel and not an OLED means there is a noticeable amount of ghosting. After a considerable number of hours using 120Hz OLED and mini LED gaming displays, I was worried that the measurably higher gray-to-gray response times wouldn't be ideal. There is quite a bit more ghosting here, but it's very tolerable even for a picky-ass bastard like me. I dare say it's slightly better than a high refresh rate screen on a budget gaming laptop. The input latency is also on point, there should be no worries there. Gamers rejoice, it might not be great, but it's certainly more than good enough. What's also good enough are the speakers. They're just loud enough to fill a room and have decent frequency response. The highs and mids are well balanced and don't sound muffled or tinny, but yeah, the bass is certainly lacking, even with the small amount of software trickery pulling bass tones into the treble range. As such, louder tones will quiet lesser ones to some degree, but not to a bothersome level. The bass in Calm Like a Bomb by Rage Against Mr. Rogers is pulled into the mid-range and thus present, and the deep bass in The Package by A Perfect Circle of the Wagons Around California is barely there. The heavy guitar pops only a little bit and the speakers will do in most pinches, but headphones should always be on hand, just in case. This is a test of the webcam on the ThinkPad P14s Intel version. 1440p, this is in excellent lighting. Remember, this is an IR webcam, so it should be able to adjust to any lighting condition, period. For comparison's sake, this is the Logitech 920e webcam. Not fair, I know, but this thing blows every other laptop webcam out of the water as far as video quality is concerned, so I gotta bring out the big guns to see just how well an extra webcam can help with your video presentation quality. And here's a test of the ThinkPad P14s's webcam in extremely poor lighting. The motion does suffer, but overall it's not half bad. This is actually picking up light very, very well for a laptop webcam. I've also got my oven fan on in the background so that you can see just how well the noise canceling functionality works as well. And here's the Logitech 920e in the same poor lighting conditions with the oven fan on, so I'm going to be a little bit more quiet now so that you can hear just how well an external webcam cancels out ambient noise. System performance of this generation of ThinkPad P14s is pretty damn nice. With a single pass in Cinebench R23, this Core Ultra 7 CPU matches my desktop with a Ryzen 9 3900X. That's incredible for a 14-inch laptop. On a 10-minute timer, it'll throttle down to normally awesome levels. Obviously, 4K video editing is a breeze, long form to boot, thanks in no small part to its 32 gigs of RAM. And if your unit doesn't have that much, the 2 DIMM slots can be upgraded at any time. For 3D modeling work, this particular example has the Nvidia RTX 500, which is roughly an RTX 3050 performance equivalent. It's a huge leap over the previous generation's RTX A500 and consumes 5 more watts this year for a total of 35. I think it'll be good enough for 99% of 3D modeling use cases, and I hope that if you're in the top 1% of demanding 3D modelers, you'll be able to glean all the information you need off this spec view performance chart. In other news, in Energy Saver, you're looking at a 40% performance drop overall, which, given the current climate of CPU performance, is still great. For regular office work and internet browsing while in Energy Saver, it's a silent beast with virtually zero fan activity and doesn't skip a beat in response times. Intensive work tasks like video or photo editing will cause the fans to spin, and with 2 of them, they make their presence known, but the frequency response is kept to the mid-range and is by no means shrill or tiresome. The only time the fans are truly active is during long compiles, exports, or gaming. At that time, they're still not annoyingly loud and are easy to live with. On to gaming. It's got an Nvidia GPU in it with 4 gigs of dedicated VRAM, and it sucks, just like all the other reviewers say. It's so far below the RTX 7090 with 36 gigs 3D GDR7 VRAM, it's downright sinful. Oh please. Realistically speaking, it has as much gaming grunt as an RTX 3050 in a cooler, more efficient package, and the RTX 3050 is slightly above the baseline for modern AAA games. You're looking at medium-low details in 1200p or medium details with DLSS on performance mode in the latest games. It'll play Snake Pass in 1200p at maximum details without skipping a beat, which is how I determine if a laptop is enough gaming power to appease me. As such, games that have taken on a few years, like Witcher 3 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, perform great in 1200p at near max detail levels. It goes without saying that even older or simpler titles will be able to push higher resolutions or 120Hz. The heat output from the bottom is going to be very uncomfortable when playing intensive PC games, though it's tolerable with a good pair of regular pants. The fan noise is easily drowned out by the speakers that output plenty of volume at very normal frequencies. Gaming on battery power takes away less than 10% of the overall performance and lasts a very typical hour. PC gaming might be very promising, but does retro gaming throw any wrenches in the spokes? For the most part, no. This laptop obviously has some of the best specs in the world for retro gaming. High refresh rate screen with no additional input lag, good speakers, and plenty of performance to boot. The biggest surprise is the battery life in Dolphin and Citra. I couldn't, for the life of me, get a good mix of performance and longevity out of the Intel Arc GPU. I've done it before in other Ultra 7 laptops, but this ThinkPad just loves to use the RTX GPU, so I've had to settle for an amazing gaming experience with itty-bitty battery life of around 2 hours. 2D retro games are amazing, easy, and let the battery last for over 6 hours and 30 minutes. The colors from the screen are perfectly neutral, not dull and not poppy at all, and there is a noticeable amount of ghosting, which is tolerable. For the bottom line, is it worth the going price of roughly $1,500? When the comparable MacBook Pro is over $2,000, oh yeah, this is a steal. Compared to other Windows-based laptops, there are thinner and lighter devices out there with longer battery life for slightly less scratch, but power and reliability will be what's sacrificed when settling for one of those. Larger, thicker laptops will give you much more performance at the expense of far superior battery life and mobility. This P14s sits right in the middle and delivers very close to the best of both worlds. As far as I'm concerned, if you've got $1,500, this is where your laptop search begins and hopefully where it ends. Will this replace my current mobile daily driver, the ThinkPad P14s AMD OLED? Again, that comparison is coming later, so instead of spoiling that video, I'll put it up against the 2022 Asus G14 with the Radeon RX 6700S GPU. The Zephyrus smacks the ThinkPad's bitch up when it comes to PC gaming performance, and its 120Hz mini LED screen is better on average thanks mostly to the reduced ghosting. It also has a card reader, which spares time, effort, and space in my laptop bag. With all that accounted for, it's still ugly as f*** and loses hands down to the Lenovo. The ThinkPad does everything the Zephyrus can do, does it more reliably and with lower temps to boot. Should everyone else replace their G14 with a P14s? Honestly, if the aesthetic of the cheap plastic body and tacky keyboard backlight doesn't hurt your eyes and sensibilities every time you look at it, and it hasn't burned up yet because you've installed and deployed G-Helper to reduce operating temps and improve battery life, then by all means keep your shitty little white gaming monster. In conclusion, students get 3 out of 2 thumbs, but not 4, and that's because of the price tag. Otherwise, it's small, light-ish, holds well more than enough power for a full day of classes, and has super comfy peripherals. Plus, there are lesser models out there for not as much scratch without the dedicated GPU that are also a little lighter. ZenBooks can also be found in the wild at similar MSRPs with about 75% of the physical footprint and overall performance. Casual gamers will love the living shit out of this. The only thing it's missing out on is a cheaper price point that it probably can't hit anyway because of the quality insides and outsides, and it would be admittedly much better with the OLED screen from its AMD sibling. Regardless, it's still a fantastic device and should not be overlooked. Competitive gamers will get a kick out of this. Granted, there are better performing machines out there for $1,500, but they don't do everything besides gaming nearly as well as the P14s. I, for one, can't wait to take this laptop to LAN parties and show off its capabilities because it's a ducking ThinkPad and it plays ducking games pretty ducking well. This laptop will serve faithfully as a desktop replacement. It's upgradable to 96 gigs of RAM, runs relatively quiet to a larger, bona fide workstation notebook, and outputs to at least 2 displays natively without a hub. Yes, it has almost half as much CPU grunt as a full-blown 17-inch notebook sporting a 14th Gen Core i7, but there's a lot of unnecessary gravy in those benchmarks, and with all that gravy, you can't pick it up and take it very far without giving yourself a shoulder impingement. Not exactly the greatest gift you can give yourself this holiday season. Save your shoulder, work a little less fast, and get a ThinkPad. Home users do have something to fear about getting this laptop. The good battery life only comes with Energy Saver and the screen set to 60 Hz, 2 settings that are at their most power-hungry by default. The charger is also a little bulky and thus slightly awkward to cart around the house. The cost isn't prohibitive because there are gutless siblings available without the dedicated GPU, awesome display, and larger battery. Pro tip, don't buy the P14s Gen 5 from Lenovo's website. Go to their eBay store where the best deals are available based on what's in stock. That's where I bought both of these P14s laptops for really good deals. This has been a review of the ThinkPad P14s Gen 5 Intel version here on Slap Tech. Stay tuned for a comparison between this laptop and the AMD OLED version. It's gonna be mighty tasty. You better subscribe so you don't miss it. As always, leave a like if you appreciated this video and put any questions you have about this laptop in the comments section below. I plan on keeping this laptop around for quite a while, so I'll be able to perform any test you want for the foreseeable future. Thanks for watching, and you guys, have a good night.